Hello again, Grapple fans. Good afternoon, and welcome to another freestyle wrestling session.
Professional wrestling has seen so many great technicians and mat experts in its illustrious history. From Kurt Angle, to Bret Hart, to William Regal, to Katsuyori Shibata, there are so many in between. But what if I told you there was a wrestling style that not only personified technical wrestling, but encouraged it and loved it dearly? A style full of rounds and intimate submissions, working on joints and limbs and telling a story with your body. There's only one style that can really match this. And that's the topic of today's explained video. We go to the shores of Europe and to the country of England to learn about the most technical style ever to grace a wrestling mat, the world of sport style wrestling. The early 20th century is where the style that we now know as world of sport wrestling is first born, albeit in a very primordial form. First beginning in a style called folk wrestling, it soon blossoms into the famous catch-as-catch-can wrestling style. And then, something incredible happens. A man named George Hackenschmidt arrives to British soils, and after defeating American Tom Jenkins, is proclaimed to be the first ever World Heavyweight Wrestling Greco-Roman champion. However, real life would intervene. And the outbreak of World War I stopped catch-as-catch-can wrestling in Britain for a long, long time, and the scene went dormant. That was until the 1930s, where a style known as all-in wrestling became very popular. Known for its violence and ruthlessness, kicks to the testicles were allowed, as well as full punches to the face. This was so unruly and so unlawful that wrestling for a time became banned. But then, in the 1940s, a man named Lord Mount Evans decided that he was going to clean up the sport. And it did take some time. He, along with several others, in 1952, set up Britain's first proper pro wrestling promotion, that being known as joint promotions. And this would be the true start of the rise of professional wrestling in Great Britain. Joint promotions would soon set up 7 weight divisions in which champions needed to be crowned: the lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, heavy middleweight, light heavyweight, mid-heavyweight, and finally, heavyweight championship divisions. These would be the 7 foundations for British wrestling going forward. Along with this came a very different set of rules to what we know in America. A round system where there would be warnings for breaking the rules twice. There would be disqualifications. You could win by pinfall, submission, or knockout. Modern-day fans of NXT will now note that these rules sound awfully similar to the NXT Heritage Cup rule system, in which, good eye, you're right. The Heritage Cup and its rules are a direct homage and tribute to this era of wrestling in Great Britain. This lasted through the 1940s, with various stars coming along. But that was until the 1950s, where a little innovation called television would take pro wrestling from the music halls into the living rooms of everybody in Great Britain for many, many years to come. On the 9th of November of 1955, the first proper televised wrestling show in Britain came from West Ham Baths. It was from there that it became an attraction on television, but it wouldn't quite pick up steam until 1964, where it was then given the very famous title, World of Sport Wrestling. What defines the World of Sport style of pro wrestling? As mentioned, it does have a round system, but it's more than just that. It is technical, it is mat-based, very story-driven, and very emotive with the body. This style captivated Great Britain throughout the 1960s. It was talked about by the entire country, where millions upon millions of viewers every Saturday would watch wrestling on the television. And none feud more popular at that time than two of British wrestling's earliest and finest practitioners of this World of Sport style. There was TV Jackie Pallo and Mick McManus. These two would have some legendary matches over the course of their long careers, with Mick McManus even becoming a British television sensation. This truly, I believe, is where wrestling in Great Britain truly picks up. The golden years of World of Sport Wrestling, the 1960s, 1970s, and the early 1980s. In this era, and in this time period, British wrestling and World of Sport would see so many iconic figures, such as the legendary exotic Adrian Street. With his androgynous gimmick and valet Miss Linda, he would confuse and perplex, yet wow audiences with his wrestling ability and his raw charisma. How about the mysterious Kendo Nagasaki, a man that would never take his mask off, kept his private life exclusive, and quite frankly, was a sensation all to his own for World of Sport. He wouldn't even appear on television regularly until much later, and would never unmask until later on in his career. He was a hard-hitting wrestler and a very charismatic force and a very mysterious person. This is Cat Weasel. I'm not sure what Cat Weasel is, but there he is. Moving on. What about the lauded technicians of World of Sport? You had a young Steven Regal, a young Fit Finlay, Marty Jones, Rollerball Rocco, but none more greater, none more skilled, none more varied, and none more accomplished than the man simply known as Johnny Saint, a 10-time world light heavyweight champion. He began his career in 1958 and retired in 2015. Modern fans may know him from NXT UK as their general manager, but believe me, this man had some of the greatest matches and the greatest battles in the history of not just British wrestling, but wrestling in general. He made his mark so much that younger wrestlers from America and all over the world cite him as a very guiding influence in their careers, including Chris Hero. The reach of Johnny Saint and his abilities, they far exceed World of Sport, and his technical style wowed the British crowds, and nowadays on YouTube wows us all over the world. A true pioneer. I give my flowers to Johnny Saint. However, more than those gentlemen, there was one name whose presence stood above the rest. A large, intimidating figure with the smile of a gentle giant. A man that, no pun intended, was bigger than life itself. In the 1970s, a man named Shirley Crabtree, who's the brother of a joint promotions member named Max Crabtree, rebranded himself from a fighting guardsman to the simple name of Big Daddy. And it took some time, but this large man would go on to define British wrestling in the 1970s and into the 1980s. You might look at Big Daddy right now on the screen and go, wait a minute, this guy looks really strange. And he's not doing a lot of big maneuvers. What gives? Why is he so popular? Well, actually, it's much like the case of Hulk Hogan in the United States. It was the presence and charisma of Big Daddy that made him a star to millions, most of all children, of whom he adored and would often carry to the ring with him. This man was so popular in Great Britain, not only becoming a celebrity in his own right, but having his own comic strip. You know, When you mention wrestling in the UK now, 9 times out of 10, an older person is going to mention to you Big Daddy or his rival. Let's get into his rival, shall we? Standing at 6 feet 11 inches tall, weighing in excess of 685 pounds. The man simply known as Giant Haystacks was a feared wrestler amongst the world of sport audience. And then we get to the rivalry that will come to define the late 70s and the early 80s of British wrestling, that of course being Giant Haystacks and Big Daddy. This match was teased for years and years and years through them first being partners, then tag matches, trios matches, and then eventually it would happen. In 1981, Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks would meet for the very first time in a singles match. One that would garner a lot of attention and a lot of viewers and a lot of people. However, there was one problem. Even though they were larger-than-life personalities, and even though that they both captivated England, it could be safe to say that this match was not going to be something that would enthrall the crowd on a more technical level. This match lasted 4 minutes and 20 seconds. And it was a heavyweight clash from the olden days. But this, I believe, was British wrestling's peak moment. The two biggest, literal and figuratively, stars battling one-on-one. It would be after this that the wheels of British wrestling would fall off.
The sport of wrestling is being counted out on television tomorrow after 33 years of regular televised bouts.
In 1988, after 33 years of regular programming that thrilled the nation of Great Britain, World of Sport Wrestling was canceled. And whether people think it's due to Big Daddy and the dumbifying of British wrestling, whether you think it was oversaturation and it getting stale, or whether you believe that a man named Greg Dyke and the television station that itself pulled wrestling due to jealousy, doesn't matter. Wrestling, after 33 years, was counted out. Now, there would be successors to World of Sport Wrestling, but it would never quite reach the same height in British culture as it did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. In the 37 years since World of Sport's cancellation, British wrestlers kept coming through the scenes all over the world and making headlines. You of course know about William Regal, but there was also Doug Williams and Nigel McGuinness, and now Zack Sabre Jr., carrying on the legacy of British wrestling for years and years and years to come. In particular, I want to highlight Mr. Regal and Zack Sabre Jr. William Regal, of course, had a long career in the WWE as a long-term villain, but he was also prevalent in WCW, where he and Fit Finlay had a match that, quite frankly, still floors me to this day and is something that you should go and check out. Regal won many championships in his career and is most known for his technical acumen, one that he learned during the World of Sport era, traveling up and down the English countryside doing carnivals. He truly kept British wrestling going in the mainstream, whether you, the viewer, knew it or not, for so many years. For that, and rightfully so, he is considered amongst the British legends like Big Daddy or Kendo Nagasaki or Adrian Street, and he deserves his place there for sure. Zack Sabre Jr., in my most humble opinion, is the purest technical wrestler in the world today, and at the time of recording this is the current IWGP champion of the world, and he's having a great run with TMDK. Zack Sabre Jr. has been carrying this style for a long time. Even when British wrestling had its little revival in the mid-2010s, Zack Sabre Jr. was a highlight of that revival. He's appeared on some of the biggest stages in all of wrestling and won some very important championships. But maybe most important to me is that he has kept this wonderful style alive in the minds of many. Zack Sabre Jr. can tie you up in knots in any way that he wishes. And I believe truly he will go down as one of the greatest British wrestlers and British exports of all time. And with that, we have reached the end of our journey through World of Sport Wrestling. And what can you say about it? How can you synopsize World of Sport Wrestling? I will attempt to do so right now. In my opinion, the World of Sport Wrestling is one of the most beautiful, intricate, and most entertaining watches if you are a big enjoyer of technical wrestling and mat wrestling. If you don't enjoy that, and you find this to be boring or whatever, I really don't blame you. There are more exciting wrestling matches to watch besides the World of Sport catalog. And some days, I'm iffy on it because I don't see the right matches. But then I see matches with Johnny Saint and Marty Jones and Rollerball Rocco and all of these individuals, and it hooks me again. If you are going to check out any World of Sport Wrestling, check out those guys. Marty Jones, Johnny Saint, Rollerball Rocco, those individuals. They will keep you hooked, I really believe. And I guess with that, we're now truly done. We've reached the end of the journey. I want to just take a brief minute to say thank you for watching. I know this video is a little bit late. That's because, quite frankly, British wrestling is a pain in the ass to find historically relevant footage. Not all of it that I wanted to show was available for me to get for you. So I had to make do with photos and kind of using my words to convey the story. So I do apologize for that, but I want to say that the Explained series has gotten us to over 500 subs, and I'm beyond grateful for that. And I want to say that the Explained series will continue, albeit next time, remind me not to dive into a topic as deep as this, because it was quite the chore. I'm actually going to do something different next time. By the time you see this video, I will already be cooking up a poll. You will get to decide the next Wrestling Explained video from some topics. The power is in your hands, both on the Discord server and through YouTube community. Until then, I'm Jake. This is STB. I want you to have a good day. I hope you're doing well. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching.